No, mate, I mean, it's just stick to the game plan. You know, it's a long race out of there. You've got to be smart. Don't get too sucked into pushing the pace too much at the beginning. Stick to the game plan. That's it, mate. And believe in himself out there. And if we can do our race, I think we're really in for a shot.
Good luck.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks.
I don't think anybody believes in themselves more than Pedro Acosta believes in himself. He has blessed with an abundance of talent, but he wants to be known as Pedro Acosta, MotoGP race winner. It's today his day with destiny. They've got a master plan. Pedro Acosta get it executed. He's on pole position. He's got a great shot at it. Just his second ever pole in MotoGP. Only the seventh of his Grand Prix career. He's not exactly a prolific pole starter, is he? Pedro Acosta, Moto3 world champion, Moto2 world champion, more than likely one day in the future, potentially MotoGP world champion. First and foremost, he wants that first win out of the way.
He and this man, Fabio Quartararo, certainly are standing up and riding above the limit. Tomorrow from 7th place on the grid. I have to say that he's probably going to be looking more backwards than forwards in this Grand Prix, given where he's qualified. So much support, as we've already mentioned, for the Frenchman as the crow flies. This is actually the closest to his home, just over the border in Nice. So many flying the French flag and the number 20 for Fabio this afternoon.
No spoilers from the early Moto2 race, but we did see a significant drop-off in time performance in the latter stage of that Grand Prix. Lap time was deviating by 2 to 3 seconds over the course of the 21-lap battle in Moto2. Are we going to get the sort of same big gaps in lap times from the start to finish of this 24-lap MotoGP race here in Catalunya? Joan getting himself set and ready. 5th in the sprint yesterday, his best in 21 since he was close to the podium in the British Grand Prix at Silverstone.
Alright, kita sudah mau mulai lagi ya. 5 minutes to race restart, guys.
Bright red 93 t-shirts, pockets of Mark fans all over the circuit to Barcelona and Catalunya. Speedy recovery, Mark. We will see you hopefully soon, hopefully in Mugello next time out. Front row of the grid then here, head of this Catalunya clash. He's already won the sprint. Can he complete the double for the first time in his career? Alex Marquez then goes from 3rd place. Frankie Morbidelli, his first front row start of the season, his first front in 15, but it's Pedro Acosta then. It's today the day that he breaks his winning duck. Can he find that elusive first MotoGP victory? It's Acosta on pole here in Catalunya.
Oke, nampaknya akan mulai sebentar lagi. Kita akan lihat apakah Martin bisa menduduki klasemen tertinggi di kasta MotoGP, menyalip BSSI dengan perbedaan berapa poin tuh ya? 2 poin dan 4 poin ya antara Martin dan BSSI ya.
KTM's last dry race win in the MotoGP World Championship clash came 5 years ago. It came right here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. On that memorable occasion, in Montmello, it was Miguel Oliveira that did the business for the factory KTM squad. It's today their best chance to end that long. back in 2022. 12 MotoGP podiums without a win. Leveling Colin Edwards, Texas Tornado, double World Superbike champion, of course, back in the day. He will not want that record to extend into a number 13, will he, Pedro Acosta? Feels like it's the hottest condition of the weekend, despite it being partly cloudy. 68 degrees Fahrenheit is the ambient temperature. Bit of blue sky, a lot of blue sky over the shoulders of Jorge Martin, who's had to shoulder responsibility for 4 crashes so far this weekend on the factory Aprilia. If he can stay on 2 wheels, will Aprilia expect Martin to be in the heat of the podium battle? It's all about the grip, or lack of, here in Catalunya. Who is going to be able to manage their Michelin tyres best towards the crucial final 4 or 5 laps in this 24-lap Grand Prix? Marco Bezzecchi then, despite a lowly 9th in yesterday's sprint, did somehow manage to double his world championship advantage from a narrow 1 point after he won last weekend to 2 points. Is his lead over Martin coming into this 6th round of 2026. Marco Bezzecchi, the last time finished lower than 2nd in a MotoGP race, was all the way back on our flyweight tour in Malaysia at the Sepang International Circuit, all the way back into last November. He's got his work cut out to keep that proud record going from the back of the 4th row in 12th place. What can Alex Marquez do? He's on the front row of the grid. Can he win a 4th successive MotoGP race here for Ducati? He got the job done here last September. Even brother Marc Marquez had nothing for Alex on that occasion. Marc Marquez came to this Catalan Grand Prix last year in red-hot form. He'd won 15 successive races, including 7 doubles in the sprint and Grand Prix format. He won the sprint here on Saturday after Alex crashed. So Alex, with a bit of a score to tell him, we've got problems here. Is that Brad Binder? That looked like, was it Brad Binder on the factory kit? It is. It's a number 33
Oke,
who's
sudah start guys ya.
off the line.
Di sini kita lihat Pedrosa sementara memimpin, seperti yang Alex Marquez di bawahnya. Siapakah itu? Oke, Pedro Acosta, Alex Marquez, Fernandez, Morbidelli, Martin nomor 5 guys. Kita lihat posisi BSSI best nomor 9 best.
Fernandez on the inside of Alex Marquez going through 3. There's a Costa that leads.
Yeah, Costa from Alex Marquez and Ralph Fernandez. Martin is in 4th place.
Luar biasa, Martin mengambil di posisi keempat. Apakah dia bisa?
His teammate also up 2 and he's up into 9th place.
Masih side by side. Gila, langsung posisi keempat Martin guys. Luar biasa. Wow, apa yang terjadi dengan Alex Marquez tadi?
So Fernandez and Alex Marquez have already had 2 or 3 moves on this first lap.
And Martin jockeying with Zarco, and he's now attacking Alex Marquez. Martin, oh, it's going to be tough to get through there. Contact between the 2 Spaniards, and that could cost Martin.
Oh, we're close to home of FC
Martin
Barcelona.
melebar.
That was a proper shoulder barge, wasn't it? Martin on Alex Marquez there as they went through turn 7 and 8. And this has given clear daylight here to Acosta at the front. He'll be blissfully
Oh my god, Martin posisi ke-6.
on this first lap. Martin makes a real hash of turn 10.
Oh, Zarco nearly lost it.
Well, Zarco, if he'd lost it there, he cleaned Jorge out.
Yeah, he was almost in the opposite turn. Now contact between Zarco and Frankie Morbidelli, and this could let Jorge Martin back through. But this is all giving the front 3 a major break behind them. Behind Martin is Gian Antonio 7th, then Quartararo, and then it's Marco Bezzecchi 9th.
Zarco and Martin dodged the bullet there, didn't they? Firstly, Zarco.
Martin berhasil kembali.
Zarco almost washed the front out himself and went down. And had he gone down, surely he'd have collected Jorge Martin on the outside. Then Acosta's lead at the end of that first lap. 3/10.
Pedro Acosta sementara leading ya. Fernandez, Alex Marquez, Zarco sama Martin.
Whether Martin might go a little bit more cautious on the first lap. He certainly hasn't. He's been full aggression on this first lap. So the Aprilia's all making ground. Fernandez up 2. Martin is already up 3. Of course, all of those have gained a place immediately because of Binder not being there. He is at the back of the field. Bezzecchi's now 8th
itu dia ya.
and Ayagura's up 6 places, 18th to 12th.
Hampir saja terjatuh guys.
He started from pit lane, so he is operating in this Catalan Grand Prix, albeit a long, long way from the back. On board, they're looking back to Martin. It's a real nudge, wasn't it? A real nerve there for
Oke, Martin kembali ke posisi 5. Pedro Acosta sendirian di depan guys. Itu harus segera diatasi itu.
Martin settled things down a bit now in 5th place. He's got the two VR46 Ducati between himself and his teammate Marco Bezzecchi, who's 8th. And you have to say once again, although he's only lost 1 place, it's another place dropped on a first lap for Fabio Di Gianantonio. He's not out of the picture by any means, but any hope of winning the Grand Prix is already starting to look a little bit remote.
Can't start that GP26 at all, can he? As Alex Marquez goes into the Ducati Express lane here. Is he going to win the gate there on the brakes against Ralph Fernandez? Ralph Fernandez is not going to let him have it. Fernandez has the inside line. That was a real tough move that by Ralph Fernandez. He saw Alex Marquez on his outside and said, no way, pal, you're not having this second place. This is playing in hands right now of Acosta, isn't it? Already 7/10 clear at the front of the field. Marquez was the quickest rider on circuit with a 1:40.123.
I think it's very good news for Acosta as long as Ralph Fernandez is defending that second place, because you feel like the two riders that might be Acosta's greatest threats from here are Alex Marquez in 3rd and Martin in 5th. Zarco's not listening to any of that though, is he? Up the inside, and he sends Alex Marquez out to the car park.
He really does send Alex out the car. Oh, and Alex almost has his front wheel wiped away there by Jorge Martin. There has been some serious aggressive moves laid on by Jones.
Luar biasa guys. Luar biasa. Sangat agresif sekali.
Chasing 3rd place. What a start to the Grand Prix this has been for Jorge Martin. Just could not get it stopped though.
Yeah, he's just got to be patient here, Martin. Clearly he's got the superior speed over Johan Zarco. Just got to bide his time here, charging there to turn 10. He's to say from our position, isn't it? Just to
Alex Marquez berusaha untuk mengovertake Martin ya. Wah, tidak bisa. Langsung ambil Zarco guys. Nomor 2 enggak tuh Martin. Nomor 3, sorry. Luar biasa. Zarco kembali battle dengan Alex Marquez. Oh, Martin mengejar Fernandez sekarang hanya 0,9.
About a second off the pace of the best sprint lap yesterday, which was a 1:39.209 on the second lap by Alex Marquez. So, early on already, the front runners are a second away from the best sprint early pace.
Yeah, is Pedro Acosta just running a pace that he's happy with at this stage? We heard Paul Travathan to Jack saying that if we do our own race, we feel we've got a major chance. So is Pedro Acosta not really concerned with the fact that his lead is coming down, because he knows what kind of pace he can do and what kind of pace will get his tire to the end.
Gue yakin sih Martin akan ngejar nih ya. Martin akan ngejar nih. Fernandez sudah close banget sama Pedro Acosta itu.
Yesterday, Ralph Fernandez was expecting to manage the rear tire and have a drop off with the rear, but it was actually the front that denied him a chance.
Wah, dapat kan? Langsung didapat oleh Fernandez.
To keep on par with Fabio Di Gianantonio late on. And we know the KTM's not slow. The 363.3 cars now down this start finish straight. We're coming from a long, long way back. It's Ralph Fernandez. Oh, yeah, Acosta just saw
Gila Ralph Fernandez ya.
So Ralph Fernandez then has decided to pick up the baton here. He goes to Acosta down in the braking zone for the first corner.
Martin masih tetap battle dengan Alex Marquez di posisi 3. So the 73 back ahead of the in-play World Championship leader, Jorge Martin. They're now 3rd and 4th.
We know that Ralph Fernandez is a bit vulnerable right now in that Trackhouse and Aprilia squad. There's a few names being mentioned, interested and hungry for his seat in 2027. So he's in shop window time. He's trying to show whoever will be the new team manager at Trackhouse in 2027. I'm still your man. I'm still the rider you need on RSGP next season. time in his MotoGP career he's actually led. Of course, the last time he did it, qualifying in Australia, he went on to win.
Someone who's got a problem here is Marco Bezzecchi, the championship leader once this race began. He's stuck behind Frankie Morbidelli at the top of the picture in 8th place, and there's a big gap that's now opened up between the two PR46 Ducatis. Did you see on the back of this four-rider group that are fighting for the final podium position? Morbidelli can't go with it, and he's backing up Bezzecchi in 8th place.
An 8th place, which would actually equal his best ever MotoGP result around this.
Best masih di 11 dia ya.
Just is having a bit of a torrid weekend. It's been so good the start in 2026. Those 5 successive top 2s. Big ass to get for him to get anywhere near that.
He's now 11. He's dropped 3 further places. He's made a mistake somewhere on this 5th lap because he's now behind Mir, Marini and Fermin Aldeguer. It just got even worse for Bezzecchi.
Well, even with the pass on Acosta into the first corner on that last lap, Fernandez still found the best lap of the Grand Prix so far. He's rapid.
Oh, kenapa ini si Best? Dia melebar, mistake lagi.
Fernandez at 139.852, one of only 2 riders in the 39s, the other being Alex Marquez.
So this was where Bezzecchi went straight wide. Then he ran into the back of his fellow Italian Morbidelli. I'm afraid it's got worse, Bezzecchi fans too. He's now been passed by Pecco Bagnaia too. Bezzecchi got some sort of problems. He's now a second behind even Bagnaia and under pressure from Bastianini and Agura now.
Yeah, it's been an awful weekend as far as Bez is concerned, and as it stands right now, as you can see, he's going to lose the MotoGP World Championship lead. He will be 7 points behind Jorge Martin going to home soil in Mugello at the end of May. Could get even worse with Jorge Martin right in the heart of this podium battle as well. On board with Acosta, up to about 280 kilometres now, 4th gear before they drop back down a couple of gears into this tight left-hander, turn 10. Yet Fernandez, having got to the front, just straight away dipped into those 139s, because we're going to be looking at the lap time and just how they change from the early part of this Grand Prix into those crucial final laps, just to see who has been able to nurse the rubber best.
Might not be the worst thing this for Pedro Acosta. I'll sit behind you, Raul. You keep doing 139s. You keep stressing your tyres out at the front of the Grand Prix, and I'll just try and save a little bit behind you.
Luar biasa battle 1-2-nya ya. Raul Fernandez sama Acosta. Martin battle dengan Alex Marquez nih.
Raising pretty rapidly. I wonder whether that's also a factor at play here as far as Acosta goes. Through we go then into turn 4. How's Alex Marquez getting on as he tries to fight back up, drop down to 5th or 6th in the after Zarco's aggression. Yeah, and Alex is looking strong. That's now successive laps. The only rider in this Grand Prix so far to pick off back-to-back 139s. Alex Marquez 1.1 seconds behind Fernandez.
So clearly, we saw that mistake for Bezzecchi into turn 10. There was clearly another one on the lap that was just completed. He did a 142.2, which is why he's now over a second behind Bagnaia. So Bezzecchi at the moment in 12th place, and he ain't exactly looking forward to 12th either. He's got Bastianini and Agura, who we know get stronger and stronger the later the race goes on, who are now right behind him. So any points that Bezzecchi can get out of this Catalan Grand Prix now, I guess will count as an achievement, because once again, as we've seen so often here in Barcelona, Marco is struggling.
Yeah, Le Mans last year when he was 14th in the French Grand Prix, the last time we saw Bezzecchi anywhere near this kind of lowly position in a Grand Prix. Almost feel like he's already operating in damage limitation mode at the moment, just to try and pick up a scant few points at the back of the top 15 that he can. Just forget about this weekend, move on, and try and regroup in Mugello in a couple of weeks' time. It is then still Raul Fernandez are just keeping Acosta at bay. They're back in the 140.3s. Still a lot faster behind them are Alex Marquez and Jorge Martin. Fair play as well to Joan Zarco. He's doing a sensational job as he gets picked off, unfortunately, by Fabio Di Gianantonio, though. But Joan Zarco to be anywhere near this podium battle at this early stage just shows that he is riding out of his skin at the moment.
Stunning ride, and there are some 2 seconds of time up behind Zarco now. So he's in a fairly safe 6th place, back to Frankie Morbidelli, who's leading that train involving the 2 factory Hondas. We now look at the overhead shot. Soon that helicopter shot will have 3 bikes in it, with Alex Marquez closing in. There he is on the 73s, now within a second of the lead.
Yeah, the younger Marquez seemingly starting to look very, very menacing here, isn't he? Without any question, he is closing down Fernandez and Acosta at a pretty rapid rate ahead of him through the left-hander 7 and 8 this particular the section. This is where we had the big contact early on with Martin and Alex Marquez. Bit of a head shake there on the gas as Acosta went careering towards turn 9.
Mr. Costa be thinking here, knowing that Alex Marquez is closing in on him. Of course, Alex Marquez beat him to the sprint victory yesterday. Martin's doing pretty good lap times, 2 in 4th place, 40.1 for him. He's also faster than the leading pair. Keep an eye on Martin, he's not out of this yet. He's just under a second behind Alex Marquez, and of course could hand further punishment to his teammate Marco Memuncaki.
Ayagura's cracking charge through from 18th to 8th in the sprint yesterday has not been replicated. The Japanese rider on the podium for the first time last weekend in Le Mans is down in 14th place. Nothing at all we've seen from Enea Bastianini, third in the Grand Prix here last September. He's been nowhere really as a front-running force this weekend. Acosta in the slipstream. We know how fast the KTM is in the start-finish straight, and Acosta is back at the front. Nothing that Fernandez can do about that at all. So as we start lap 8 of 24, it is Pedro, lap 9 rather, it's Acosta that's back at the front.
Very interested to see if Acosta puts a bit of a spurt on now with Fernandez between himself and Alex Marquez. Is this an opportunity for Acosta just to build a little bit of a gap ahead of the rider who we think is going to be his likeliest threat here, the rider in 3rd place, Alex Marquez? Key phase of the race this now potentially for Acosta.
Just feel that Zarco's pace is just tapering off ever so slightly. A 140.8 on the last lap from Zarco. A lap he lost 5th place to Fabio Di Gianantonio. That was 4/10 slower than Digia, 4/10 slower than Martin, 8/10 slower than Alex Marquez. To be fair to Zarco, Alex Marquez is quicker than anybody at the moment around this Barcelona circuit. So Zarco potentially soon, if he's not careful, will be dropping back into the 41s. He's still over 2 seconds clear though of Morbidelli.
Yeah, pace already dropping into the mid-40s for the race leaders on that last lap, which I think is another reason why Acosta wanted to get past Raul Fernandez, because his pace already started to drop off a little bit. Martin and Di Gianantonio, they exchanged 40.4s. They're just in the back of the picture, 4th and 5th, with Zarco hanging on in 6th. Morbidelli is now leading a trade that goes all the way back to Agura in 14th place. 7th back to 14th, and Memuncaki, weirdly now, is back in the mid-140s again, doing similar pace to the leaders.
So KTM are pretty in Ducati at the moment. Here's your top 3. What a shot that is on board with Alex Marquez. Raul Fernandez almost scraped him with his elbow on the tarmac through that 3rd gear turn 14. And Fernandez, well, he got blasted by Pedro Acosta on this long one down to the 1st corner. This time around, there's nothing you can do about Alex Marquez. Alex had the rear wheel hopping in the air there, didn't he? As he braked into the 1st corner. He's done awesome there, actually, to make sure he hits the apex there. So Alex Marquez then up into 2nd place. Trouble brewing here for Acosta.
Yeah, crucially, just keeping tabs with Raul Fernandez, with Acosta ahead. Yellow flags have come out, and it's Enea Bastianini's name who is tumbling down the order somewhere in the 1st sector. Perhaps a turn 2 crash, but either way, wherever he's gone down, looks like it's the end of Enea Bastianini's day, and he will not be replicating his podium of a year ago.
Yeah, he was having a bit of a mare, wasn't he, the beast? No question about it. At the front, that's the cost about what? Half dozen bike lengths, maybe a little bit more. Back to Alex Marquez in 2nd place. These two know each other's strengths and weaknesses here in Catalunya. They went toe-to-toe, didn't they, in the sprint yesterday? The closest ever sprint finish we've had since that new era started back in 2023. All anxious faces, pensive faces looking on inside the factory KTM garage. You can see Pit Barra there, KTM Motorsport Director. They want this long barren run to come to an end.
Our information on our timing screens actually is that it's a technical issue that has stopped Bastianini, so we'll beg his pardon on that one. There he is inside the racetrack. He is down at turn 1, but it would appear that the KTM has broken down on him.
Well, it was a technical problem yesterday for his Tech 3 teammate Maverick Vinales, which ruled Top Gun out of the sprint. So more technical woes coming the way of Gunther Steiner's French-based squad. And really sort of built on the good news of their extension to a contract with KTM 2027 and beyond. The Costa then a 140.4, Alex Marquez a 140.3, Raul Fernandez in the high 140s now. Zarco 140.7. He's not letting Martin and Gianantonio relax ahead of him in that battle for 4th place.
There's a real podium opportunity here for Martin if he can continue this, because he took 4/10 out of Fernandez, whose pace is now starting to head towards the high 140s. That'll be concerning the Trackhouse team, given how sharp his lap times have dropped off. Remember, he was doing high 39s, 3 or 4 laps ago. He's now a second a lap slower than that as Acosta, a little bit wide through turn number 4. And Alex Marquez is trying to deal out the same dose that he dished out to Acosta yesterday.
And Secchi, after his early woes, still stuck in 12th place. That's 1 position headed by Agura. There was 1 position split those two last weekend in Le Mans. A very different story in the Bugatti Barcelona. Fabio Quartararo, he's in 14th place. Quartararo has actually just slipped into the 141, so the Yamaha, who do tend to suffer anyway with a lack of rear grip, that will just be exaggerated by the no grip here in Barcelona. So Quartararo still though leading the Yamaha charge in 14th.
Six riders still very much in this. It's now starting to close up to be a genuine six-rider group at the front of the race. Ayagura has just passed Marco Bezzecchi somewhere on this lap, so Bezzecchi now down to 13th place. Put the flag out now. Martin scoring 13 points, Bezzecchi only 3.
One big weapon Martin's had is his aim of race pace. Great management of tyres. Alex Marquez has been using all of that 300 horsepower to good use on that Ducati GP26. We saw this in the sprint yesterday as Alex Marquez, well, they did run these, didn't they, in that braking zone for the first corner. Acosta just about clinging on here, just about hanging on to the leaders. They power now through the tyre shredding turn 3.
Costa putting a major squeeze on Alex Marquez there, saying, if you want to take this lead from me, you're going to have to prize it from my fingers. We know how much Pedro Costa wants a MotoGP victory. We know how hard he's pushed for it. We know how close he's been. So Alex Marquez is going to have to really fight hard for this.
Yesterday in the sprint, Acosta's KTM stopped better. Alex Marquez's Ducati turned better. Two different strengths at play in the sprint yesterday. Here is Acosta then. He'll just be going all in here, won't he? Tooth and nail for that first Grand Prix victory. For 8 he goes, bit of a wheelie there as he was on the power through the fast right-hander of turn 9, making sure that you ease the power on. You don't want to leave yourself susceptible to a pass. Acosta got a problem.
Alex Marquez,
Acosta,
jump off it.
oh dearie me. Acosta had a problem.
That's going to be a red flag.
This is a red flag. This is a red flag. Something happened to Pedro Acosta's KTM. It cut out. Pedro Acosta had a major technical issue there on the factory KTM. Factory KTM behind him with nowhere to go. Alex Marquez had no room whatsoever to take any kind of avoiding or evasive action. Drama here then. Of course, first and foremost, our hopes are with Alex Marquez. That was a sickening incident there. I mean, you're close to, what, 250 kilometres an hour. Acosta's KTM has just completely gone kaput. Incident on the run down to turn 10. Poor old Alex Marquez. There was nowhere for Alex to go. I mean, these riders have lightning reflexes.
He was half a tenth behind him.
Yeah, nowhere to go.
No chance to react to that. Debris then flew onto the racetrack, which took down Gian Antonio, and I'm certain that some debris hit Ralph Fernandez too, because he looked in some serious pain on board his Aprilia.
The contact has deflated Acosta's rear tyre. To be fair to Pedro Acosta, the moment, the split second he realised he had an issue, he put his arm up, but Alex Marquez was so close to his rear tyre, he just had no time at all to react. He would have tried to avoid the action, but nothing that Alex could do. So this MotoGP race here in Barcelona has been red flagged.
So I think we'll have lost four of the top 5 riders in this race. We'll get a restart, but I doubt we're going to see Pedro Acosta in it, because they won't be able to repair that bike. Alex Marquez, of course, out of the Grand Prix. Not so sure we'll see Didier either. And Ralph Fernandez was definitely in pain. Of course, we hope that all the riders that have been involved in that are okay. An update from Ralph Fernandez. What's up with Ralph Fernandez? How much pain is he in, Jack?
Oh, he's in so much pain. 3 of the team personnel had to help him off of the bike. It looks like he went straight to the right collarbone. He's in a lot of pain as well, Fernandez. So I imagine it's going to be very difficult to see him in a restart here.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack, for the update on Ralph. And you can see there as well, trackside at the incident, further down, a lot further past the initial contact with Alex Marquez and Pedro Acosta was Fabio de Gian Antonio.
Yeah, I think he got hit by potentially a wheel or a fork or something, then came bouncing back onto the racetrack. As Alex Marquez was bouncing down the right-hand side, and that came straight into de Gian Antonio's front tyre and sent him down the road. There is debris everywhere, and of course a rider that needs to be treated at the side of the racetrack down there at turn 10. As you saw on screens there, 3/4 distance has not been completed. We were on lap 13 of 24 when the race was stopped. So we will get a restart to this Grand Prix.
Mudah-mudahan
And
Alex
they'll get
Marquez
a
nggak apa-apa
position
tuh.
at the end of the last complete lap. Of course, that only includes the riders who are fit and have fit motorcycles to take the restart.
Let's go quickly down to Jack for a Pedro Acosta update, Jack.
Yes, second bike is being ready for Pedro Acosta. Akiayo's just gone over to his rider to check with him. Helmet off, gloves off for Acosta, and he looks okay. Doesn't look like he's picked up any injuries in that huge collision. And that second bike is ready to go for the number 37.
Yeah, thanks very much, Jack. Of course, right now, our main considerations, all of our thoughts and well wishes go to Alex Marquez, winner of the closest sprint in history yesterday. As you would expect, some very concerned faces down in the BK Grazini Racing squad. There is Danny Aldridge in the blue shirt, MotoGP technical director, talking to Sebastian Risa, KTM tech boss. Well, that's the best possible news. Alex Marquez, this is direct from the medical director, Dr. Angel Chartra. Alex, despite that real nasty collision with Pedro Acosta, he is reported conscious at trackside. He was immediately attended to by the best medical team in the world. I can hear, I think the fans are just see on the big screens the message about Alex. And that's the reason why they are applauding.
The worst point of the racetrack. This is probably Gian Antonio trying to rush back. You need to try and get your bike back within 5 minutes of the red flag to be able to take the restart. If he doesn't, Gian Antonio is going to be out of this race. Of course, when something like that happens on a straight, of course, the straight is lined, particularly on that right-hand side. There's a concrete wall to the right-hand side because that straight is backing on to sort of the back of the paddock around this circuit. So not a lot of room there. So the worst possible moment for something like that to happen. This is what it looked like. Let's listen to Pedro Acosta's KTM.
Genuinely terrifying. A real super scary incident here. We're on board with Acosta.
It was just a momentary reaction, wasn't it? Alex Marquez immediately went right to try and move, otherwise he got straight up the back of that KTM. They could see the debris scattered all over the racetrack, which also brought down Gian Antonio.
You're coming through that turn 9, already third gear, 130 kilometres an hour, and then about halfway down that short straight before you hit the brakes hard for turn 10, your fourth gear, just shy of 280 kilometres an hour. Acosta had not got to that point. What was striking there from the onboard, the first thought that Pedro Acosta had, you saw him there look to his right, he'd just seen a Grazini Ducati, a blue blur, debris everywhere, and of course he'd been thinking, Alex Marquez, let's just hope that Alex is okay. Ongoing discussions there, then down with Red Bull KTM management, Paul Trevathan, Acosta's crew chief, speaking once again to MotoGP technical director Danny Aldridge. That was...
They want a good understanding there, won't they, of what happened to Acosta's KTM. And ultimately, you know, there are going to be riders who are going to be heading into this restart and in a little bit of pain. Of course, we hope Raul Fernandez is going to be able to take the restart. Feels unlikely at the moment. Of course, there's going to be a bit of a clean-up operation on this back street. Just see the ambulance there, just down there by turn 10 to give Alex Marquez the very latest care. We saw the damage to Gian Antonio. What about the rider? Is he fit to restart, Jack?
Well, as he got off the bike, he was holding that left arm pretty loose, pretty down low. He's gone straight out the back of the box, I imagine into his office, potentially to the medical centre for a check. The officials down here have just confirmed to the team that Fabio is eligible for the restart, but first and foremost, they need to check his body over because he didn't look 100% when he got off the bike.
Yeah, so there are several riders who we are obviously aware that all riders involved in this are conscious, as we do get the ongoing treatment and assessment of Alex Marquez. Pedro Acosta was devastated to have played a part in that incident when there's nothing he could do at all. The engine, the KTM was still running, it just was nowhere near full power, wasn't it? It was just like the engine just died, didn't it? It was cut out almost. Nothing that Acosta could do, unfortunately. Nothing that Alex Marquez could do as well, despite, as we saw there, Alex did his level best to try and veer to the right, but he was just too close. I mean, first and foremost, in Alex's mind at that point is, well, am I close enough to attack Acosta and make the move, make the pass him going on the brakes into turn 10? The last thing any of us would have expected would have been for the rider directly headed into encounter what was clearly some kind of significant major malfunction on Acosta's RC16.
In terms of an order for the restart when we get it, the standings on our screens, which of course taken Alex Marquez out of it because he wasn't running when the race was stopped. All riders, as you can see there on screens, eligible for the restart except Bastianini, who retired shortly before the stoppage, and Alex Marquez, who of course crashed, having run into the back of Acosta's, breaking down KTM. So the grid, as we understand it, because the standings on our timing screens would be Acosta, Raul Fernandez and Martin would be the front row. Then it would be Di Gianantonio, Zarco, and Morbidelli. Mia, Aldeguer, and Marini on the third row. Then it would be Bagnaia, Agura, and Benzecchi. Quattararo, Moreira, Vinales, Miller, Rins, Toprak, Augusto Fernandez. The one rider who might be rescued a little bit to a certain extent by this is Brad Binder, who of course was way down the back of the field. He will enjoy the opportunity of a restart, although of course he will not enjoy that it's come in these circumstances.
There is Jorge Martin, his factory and Aprilia crew readying themselves for the restart. It will be a new race distance of 13 laps. Just as soon as we've got any information on when we will be restarted, well, that's all rather immaterial right now, isn't it? Of course, as we continue our thoughts with Alex Marquez. Jack, back down to you in pit lane with a further update.
Yeah, I'm just outside the KTM box, and as you guys have just mentioned, Dene Bassinini not eligible for this restart as a result of a technical problem. Now, my understanding is that that technical problem is something pretty similar to what we saw happen to Pedro Acosta. Some of the Tech Trois team have just come across to let the factory boys know to say maybe you need to investigate further. We saw Brad Binder's bike stall on the grid as well. We don't know of any new updates that KTM have brought, but there is potentially concern of some kind of reliability issue given what we've seen over the past couple of hours here at Barcelona.
Yeah, a very valid point. Thanks very much, Jack. Race to be restarted for 13 laps. That was just a terrifying onboard shot there, wasn't it? I mean, Fabio Di Gianantonio basically just ran into a tyre that was flying through the air. It's been a long time since we've seen a MotoGP bike disintegrate to the extent that Alex Marquez did there. I mean, it's just a nightmare. So as you can understand why Danny Aldridge has gone down to KTM, as Jack's point has brilliantly made. Brad Binder had a start and an issue on the line. A technical issue also ruled out Enea Bastianini, and another technical issue has also involved Pedro Acosta. So quite rightly, MotoGP technical management are just making sure that the KTMs are going to be reliable enough for this restart. If there's any kind of similar issue that's come the way of Binder at the start, Bastianini, when he was at the end of the straight, a cutout there, or the sudden loss of power and momentum for Acosta out of turn 9.
See off to the left as you look. That's how little space Alex Marquez had to crash into there. Of course, you're not likely to put an awful lot of runoff on the side of a straight, because you wouldn't expect any sort of rider to crash in there. It just goes to show how safe these racetracks have to be, and just how safe all the safety equipment, both in terms of the motorcycles and the riders, has to be, because an accident can happen at any point, in any circumstances. Unfortunately, it happened in this circumstance for Alex Marquez. Acosta now, doesn't he? Already, by the time his left hand has gone up, Alex Marquez is straight into the side of it, and at this stage, Alex Marquez is a passenger.
Just look at Ralph Fernandez. He's getting peppered by debris, peppered by carbon parts that have broken off Alex Marquez's Ducati GP26. And I can't even imagine, I can't even begin to think right now of what is going through the mind of Alex Marquez. All you can see there at over 200 kilometers an hour is the wall fast coming his way. And then, of course, as he goes on the gravel and the grass, then there's just nothing that Alex can do to maintain any semblance of control on that Gresini Ducati. KTM already Pedro Acosta's spare bike as the extensive cleanup operation then goes on at turn 10. As we mentioned, the new race system will be 13 laps. No confirmation on the restarting time, but as mentioned as well, it's immaterial really. When our thoughts are with Alex Marquez, who is in the ambulance being returned now to the Circuit Medical Centre.
What essentially we will have when this Grand Prix gets underway is a bit of a second sprint, won't we? The sprint yesterday was 12 laps in this Grand Prix. So who this might play into the hands of is anybody in this field who still has a brand new soft rear tyre. If anybody does in this MotoGP field, if anybody has a brand new soft rear tyre available, surely they're going to be using that for this restart. The news that Fabio Di Gianantonio is back in the VR46 box gives us positivity, a nod to his team that he hopefully will take this restart.
Yeah, I think that was the I'm good to go, guys, I'm ready. That's what these MotoGP races do. They've got this incredible ability. This is unfortunately, it's part of the game, isn't it? You get incidents like this. Thankfully, they are few and far between. But it's the mental fortitude that they can block out these moments of adversity. And in a few moments' time, they'll be full gas, 360 kilometres an hour down the start-finish straight once again. Of course, they will be thinking about Alex Marquez, that serious incident. I mean, Fabio Di Giannantonio, what did he see? What could he do? Nothing really. I mean, he was getting absolutely peppered as well by destroyed bodywork. I mean, Alex Marquez is destroyed because the Ducati came bouncing back onto the circuit, didn't it? Let's go down there and get some word from Tech 3 KTM on what will that Enea Bastianini, if they do indeed know. Nico Goyle is for Jack.
Yeah, Nico, did Enea explain what happened?
Well, he had a technical issue. The bike basically stopped. We don't know. The bike just came back. We need to check on the data what happened.
Is there a concern it was a similar problem to what happened to Pedro?
I have no idea. We just saw Pedro lifting the hand. Once again, we need to check the data, and the bike just arrived right now, so we need to check. Sorry, I cannot tell you anymore.
Thanks, Nico.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks to Nico Goyle. Pedro Acosta did everything he could to try and warn the riders behind him. We saw, though, the moment that Alex Marquez impacted his rear tyre was right at the same moment that Pedro got his left arm up to try and warn those riders behind him that he had encountered a pretty serious issue. Acosta is going to be eligible for the restart. The impact, how heavy was the impact? So his rear tyre completely deflated. That's how hefty it was.
Yeah, they're cranking up there on that back straight between 9 and 10. Well, to the thick end of 300 kilometres an hour, you'd say, before they finally break for turn 10. Halfway down the straight as we await news on when this Grand Prix will get back underway. Let's rejoin Jack.
Yeah, just to clear up what we've been saying, MotoGP officials have just gone into chat with the KTM technical staff, and they have confirmed to them that they are 100% sure that the technical issue of Enea Bastianini and Pedro Acosta is unrelated. So as a result, they're more than happy for Pedro Acosta to take his place in the restart.
Good work as always down in pit lane, Jack, as Pedro Acosta then looks at the screens. I mean, he'll be shaken, he'll be rattled himself. Of course, nothing he could do, nothing whatsoever. Let's have a listen. We're on board with Alex Marquez. You have to really feel, don't you? For Alex Marquez, you have to feel for Pedro Acosta as well for being the innocent cause of that incident. But as you can quite clearly see there, Alex was starting to accelerate. Gone through the third gear, right-hander of turn 9, he already gone up into fourth gear. He was starting to motor towards about 280 kilometers an hour when he
tiba-tiba sepertinya Pedro Acosta motornya mati atau gimana itu?
In front of him, a thumbs up from Fabio Di Giannantonio. Of course, he was right in the thick of that podium battle. Just a little tap on the shoulder there for Digia.
Understandably, looks a little bit pale there, doesn't he, Fabio Di Giannantonio? I think I would do too if I'd seen what he'd seen. With bits of Ducati flying in his direction, part of which, of course, took him down into turn 10. And as you say, this is what separates these riders from just normal human beings like us in terms of the mentality. They've got to now suddenly switch their mentality from concern with what's happened to themselves, concern with what's happened to Alex Marquez, to game face, focusing on a Grand Prix and 25 points in a race victory still to be fought for.
I think that's those crashes, those kind of incidents are few and far between in the MotoGP World Championship. Well, caught up with that incident. Of course, he was leading at one point in the first phase of that Catalan Grand Prix. His track has a pretty as Raul Fernandez. Let's get an update on the Spaniard with Davide Brivio.
Yeah, I'm pleased to say Raul now back in the box, but when he got off the bike, he was obviously in a lot of pain, Davide. So what's he explained to you?
Yeah, no, he got one piece of something on is a hit, just a hit. So now we check a little bit of medication, and yeah, not fantastic, but it's okay. No, it's okay, and so
he's good to go for the restart.
Yeah, of course, yes.
Good news. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks very much, Davide Brivio, for coming to talk to Jack. So yeah, there is Pedro Acosta. And just to keep you updated, other than the fact that we know that the new race distance will be 13 laps, there's been no indication as yet while the cleanup operation continues as to when we'll be back underway here in Barcelona. Just saying, thankfully these incidents few and far between. The last time I've seen Davey to that extent in the MotoGP race, my mind goes straight back to that horrendous incident, completely different incidents in Austria, the Red Bull Ring, with Maverick Vinales, Frankie Morbidelli, John Zarco. We're all, come on, Zarco Mordelli, of course, tangled at high speed through that turn 2 kink, and then their bikes went flying through the air. Marit Vinales and Valentina Rossi so fortunate on that occasion. It is, thankfully, a very, very rare occurrence.
There was one in Moto 2 that same day, wasn't there, with Happy Siren, where there were bits of bike and swing arms and all sorts of forks flying through the air, which riders had to duck under. As I say, it's always the danger when two bikes connect on a straight. There's clearly some work being done there on the...
Let me show you what I got.
Now, simply as you can see the panel there flashing off to the left as you look, the yellow and red striped panel, which indicates that there is something on the racetrack, potentially reduced grip coming up. Coming up to just past 20 to 3 local time here now in Barcelona, around about the point that the checkered flag would have been coming out in this Grand Prix. It was building up to a fantastic finale, wasn't it? With Pedro Acosta and Alex Marquez, they had a couple of moments where they'd gone side by side down the main straight. Of course, we are still in potentially for a great Grand Prix over 13 laps, but as I say, it's likely to resemble something much more like a MotoGP sprint now.
It is a tough and at times unforgiving game by the GP. Alex Marquez, he was delirious yesterday, having taken a sprint win here in front of his home crowd. He woke up this morning and went to bed last night dreaming of a first ever double. But unfortunately, after that real nasty incident, pre-red flag with Pedro Acosta, Alex will not be able to be part of this restarted Catalan Grand Prix. Let's hope that he's going to be okay. No serious injuries for Alex. That's going to see him have a prolonged absence in the MotoGP World Championship. There is part of the Gresini management. How long has Carlo Mellini been part of Gresini? Well, pretty much from day one, an integral part of the Italian-based team, of course. As everybody shares our thoughts and best wishes to Alex. Let's go back down to Jack in pit lane.
Yeah, pit lane will be open in 5 minutes' time, 14:48 local time. And as you guys might be able to see at the top of your picture, 13 laps to go.
Thanks very much, Jack. So then we are hopefully going to be getting back underway here in Catalunya in about 5 minutes' time. Of course, we had a red flag thing. Alex Marquez has been transferred to hospital for further examinations, further checks. Let's hope these are just precautionary measures as far as the former Moto3 and Moto2 world champion is concerned. Paco Bagnaia had his tough moments in Barcelona himself, hasn't he? That horrendous first corner incident involving him and Brad Binder a couple of years ago.
A quick restart procedure will be employed, which, if you've been watching us across all three classes of Grand Prix racing this season, you will be well aware of how it works, because we've seen it already on, I think, 3 occasions in Moto2 and once in Moto3. The riders will have 60 seconds in 3.5 minutes' time. The pit lane exit will go green. They've got to get themselves out of pit lane. They will have 60 seconds to get themselves out of pit lane and then back round to the grid. One mechanic from each of their particular teams will wait for them to make sure that everything is A-OK, and then the warm-up lap will commence before a 13-lap Catalan Grand Prix, which Pedro Acosta will start from pole position from, ahead of Ralph Fernandez and Jorge Martin, to Gian Antonio Zarco and Morbidelli on the second row, ahead of Mir, Aldeguer and Marini. Bagnaia, Ogura, Bezzecchi is Acosta, Fernandez, and this man, Brad Binder, who was due to take the initial start from 8th, but got wheeled off the grid seconds before the start. We're about to see it now. He will take the restart from 20th on the grid. And at what point is it here? Yeah, even before he stops, he already realises clearly he'd lost the bike, lost the engine, and had to get himself straight off the grid. Didn't even attempt to stop in his grid box.
Yeah, that's good work by Brad. He was not going to be involved in any kind of start delay, got himself straight off the grid. Well, the bike's cut out and it wasn't running because clearly seconds later they got it fired up and he was able to start the Grand Prix from pit lane. So in just over a minute's time, or 14:48, a couple of minutes time, correct graphic there, we'll be back underway. Well, Johan Zarco, another rider that seemed to take a bit of a whack from some of the flying debris out in the red flag incident. Let's get an update from Jack on the Frenchman.
Yeah, you saw Johan icing the left foot after some contact with some debris, but Johan has just put the boot back on with a real grimace on his face. He's clearly in some discomfort, but the helmet going back on, the Frenchman will take part in the restart.
Thanks, Jack. He's one of several riders caught up in that incident that are going to be tackling this 13-lap restart in a bit of pain and a bit of discomfort. Ralph Fernandez and Fabio Di Giannantonio, also nothing that they can do. They're just trying to do their level best to avoid what was left of Alex Marquez's bike when it did bounce off the fence and started tumbling towards the middle of the circuit on the run down to turn 10. Here is then your revised grid, or was.
There was it. Acosta, Fernandez and Martin definitely is the front row. That I can assure you. Now you can see it. And it will be very interesting, as mentioned, to see who, if anyone, has a soft rear tyre available. Because that might be the pick for this restart, given the short distance. Di Giannantonio, Zarco, Morbidelli is your second row. Mir, Aldeguer and Marini together on row 3. Luca Marini was due to take the original start, well he did, in 16th place, so he's up 7. Bagnaia 10th from Agura, and Marco Bezzecchi 12th, which is, of course, exactly where he started the original Grand Prix. Quartararo, Moreira and Vinales on the 5th row. Vinales, the sole remaining Tech 3. KTM running, Miller, Rins and Toprak next up ahead of Augusto Fernandez and Brad Binder in 20th place. So two riders do not take the restart for differing reasons, but both very obvious. Enea Bastianini, who had already broken down, therefore is not eligible to take the restart because he was no longer running. And Alex Marquez, who is on his way to hospital, we sent him all our very best for further examinations after that collision with the stuttering KTM of Pedro Acosta, who was leading the race and will therefore be leading the grid. He will start from pole position for this restart. Pit lane is now open, and it will be open for another 50 seconds for the 20 riders that remain to take the restart of this Grand Prix. It has to be said, it's a situation where the riders have got to try, as difficult as it is for all of us, to shut that incident out of their minds, particularly difficult for the likes of Acosta, who was, of course, the central figure to it with his KTM breaking down, but of course, Di Giannantonio, Martin, Fernandez and Zarco, who were all in the wake of that incident, who've now got to try and focus on the task at hand and a 13-lap Grand Prix to come.
Second bite of the cherry then for 20 riders here in this restarted Catalan Grand Prix. Here's Davide Tardozzi, a factory Ducati boss. Preparing to see Pecco Bagnaia line up at the head of row 4 in 10th place. And there's Ralph Fernandez, along with Zarco and Digia. He was caught up in the incident behind Pedro Acosta and Alex Marquez. Jorge Martin was certainly in podium and victory contention in that first part, wasn't he? As the lane is going to close very, very shortly. Right here it was where we had all the drama. A horrible crash, a horrible incident. A collision involving Acosta and Alex Marquez. Alex Marquez, just for the latest information, is being currently transferred to a nearby hospital where he'll undergo further examinations. Underneath the KTM banner there, the orange flag, is the damaged Pedro Acosta number 1 factory KTM, by which Alex Marquez could not avoid hitting before the red flag drama. So we put the restart procedure implemented once again, as well as just explained. One mechanic, one member of team personnel is allowed onto the grid just to make sure that everything is in full working order. They'll get a thumbs up and nod from their rider, They will quickly depart the grid. There'll be a warm-up lap, and then we'll be racing in what is going to be a short 13-lap now Monster Energy Grand Prix of Catalunya.
Of course, all our thoughts are with Alex Marquez at the moment. We hope he is okay. But in terms of the Grand Prix that we now have ahead of us, real opportunity here for Jorge Martin, I have to say. From third on the grid, of course, both of the starts we've seen, the sprint yesterday and the Grand Prix already earlier on today, Jorge Martin was absolutely mustered off the line. He rocketed up the order. He was up as high as 4th or 5th by the time they even got to turn 1 and started the Grand Prix. So he, alongside Ralph Fernandez and Pedro Acosta, surely he's going to be thinking at this stage, we've got a great chance potentially to lead into turn 1 when this gets underway.
The Grand Prix really has become a sprint once again here now in Catalunya. This is a sprint won by Alex Marquez. It's over 12 laps. We're only going 1 lap further now than in this restarted Grand Prix of Catalunya. Some riders are going to have their pain thresholds tested as well. Fabio Di Gianantonio, Johan Zarco and Ralph Fernandez, all of them unable to avoid some of the debris after the Acosta Marquez incident. Fernandez second on the grid. Costa going from pole. Snow Thompson, Johan Zarco. Just trying to find a bit of clear traffic. Jack just informing us that this is a straight shootout in terms of rear tyres. And over the shortened format, everybody has gone for the Michelin soft rear tyre. So effectively, we're going to get sprint number 2, aren't we, here this weekend in Barcelona?
Everyone will have very good information on that soft rear tyre from that sprint yesterday. But Pedro Acosta will still, of course, have that opportunity, which is still being afforded to him after the collision, which he was certainly in the central figure 2, but having got himself back into pit lane, which was the crucial element of that, getting himself back into pit lane with some assistance from riders behind him, that left him eligible to take this restart. Of course, the one rider that really did push him yesterday is no longer on the grid. Alex Marquez will not take this restart. So is this, in the most extraordinary and unusual of circumstances, not the preferred circumstances for Pedro Acosta, is this now his big opportunity?
Yeah, he won a sprint earlier on this season. He felt like it was not a completely well-earned sprint victory after Marc Marquez had to drop 1 position late on. So for the second time I've asked him to come under starters orders here in Barcelona. It's Jorge Martin who takes that 3rd place on the grid with, unfortunately, Alex Marquez on his way to hospital. Once again, our best of thoughts and well wishes that go to the number 73. But here we go then, take 2 in Catalunya. Lights out, we're racing once again here in MotoGP in Barcelona. And this time around it is Jorge Martin who makes another stunning start on the factory of Brilliant. Drops in behind Pedro Acosta. Joan Mir's got away well. 2 on the number 36 of factory Honda. Mir's going to drop in second place.
Into Marini and Bagnaia.
Oh, and Zarco. Oh, Zarco's got tangled in the bike. Zarco got stuck in the rear tyre. This could be another red flag. This will be another red flag, surely. Johan Zarco, you could see he was stuck. His leg, one of his legs was trapped, it looked like. And as the bike barrel rode through the gravel trap, Johan Zarco, he was just along to the right, nothing that he could do. Let's hope that Johan Zarco is going to be okay. Marini, yeah, red flag once again. No choice but to stop this. No choice whatsoever. We've seen down the years so many nasty incidents on that long run down into the first corner here in Barcelona. One of the longest runs from the rider's starting position before they hit the brakes for the first time. Pecco Bagnaia has more turn 1 woes here in Catalunya. He's on his feet but holding his left wrist. But first and foremost, now after our thoughts went to Alex Marquez, and now it is Johan Zarco who clearly was caught and tangled up in one of those crash bikes.
He clearly had a poor start at Zarco to be running into the back of Luca Marini, who started 4 places behind him, and Bagnaia, who of course was way down the grid. Yes, he's got 3 more riders down. Of course, we pray and hope that Johan Zarco is a-okay. It looked like he just couldn't get the bike stopped. Of course, he was in the middle of a pack, and no doubt the slipstream effect up behind the likes of Luca Marini up ahead. Zarco just could not get that Honda stopped, and obviously nowhere to go except straight into the pack ahead.
More very concerned faces down in the whole pit lane. So, for the second time here today in Barcelona, the the MotoGP race has been red flagged. The initial running over 24 scheduled laps, red flagged after the incident involving Acosta and Alex Marquez. And now another red flag. This time around, Italians Pecco Bagnaia and Luca Marini involved. Poor old Johan Zarco as well. Remember a nasty first corner incident back in 2006, Marco Melandri getting tangled up in a bike as well. Taka Nakagami a few years ago when he lost control of his LTR Honda, his head made contact with the rear tyre of Pecco Bagnaia's Ducati on that occasion.
Bagnaia trying to get that bike back onto the racetrack. Of course, less than 3 laps completed, so we will go back to the original grid positions. Of course, those riders that are eligible to take the restart. Of course, it's often the case, isn't it? One red flag often breeds another. It just heightens the tension for everyone out there on the racetrack. Medical Director info, all riders are conscious. We can see 2 of them there, of course, Luca Marini and Pecco Bagnaia, who certainly, we saw Pecco holding his left arm a little bit, but otherwise he would appear to be okay, and his focus now is on getting himself back to the pit. You already saw the factory Ducati team preparing his second bike, and Luca Marini, of course, on his Honda, he's also trying to plot the easiest way back to the pit so he can take part in the restart.
So back in the track house of Aprilia garage goes Ayagura. There is Marini. We've already seen Pecco Bagnaia making his way back to the paddock on the back of a scooter. There is Marini. You can just see him in the middle of the picture. It's a great start by his fellow factory Honda rider Joan Mir around the outside. We're on board at the moment with the factory Aprilia World Championship leader Marco Bezzecchi. He's got Ralph Fernandez directly ahead of him, and unfortunately Johan Zarco, just in way too hot, makes contact with Marini's rear tyre. So it looks like Zarco actually got caught up and tangled with his own bike, and on the outside, wrong place, wrong time, it was Pecco Bagnaia who also got collected in that incident. Danny Aldridge then now the MotoGP technical director in a bit of a summit there. Dominic Brivio was there, Gino Borsoi, Prima Pramac Yamaha team boss looking on, and obviously with some big concern for the welfare of his rider, Lucio Cecchinello, LCR Honda boss, rather anxiously looking at the screens after that real nasty incident involving Johan Zarco.
As always, they'll take their time with this. Of course, it's inconvenient for everybody to have long delays like this, but they are wholly necessary. They need to give the rider the very best possible care at whatever incident he's been in. It's the kind of thing which you do not rush. It takes as long as it needs to. When the rider is in some serious discomfort, of course, you don't want to move a rider if he's particularly injured, either his legs or potentially his arms or part of his neck. You need to make sure that he's in the best possible care. Ambulance just there in the long lap penalty lane. The medical car and the safety car are down there too. The new race distance, of course, having lost 1 lap now from the 13 that we were going to have, is now down to 12 laps when we do get underway for a 3rd time. Of course, 12 laps was the sprint distance yesterday.
It's just rotten luck. Just a set of circumstances which saw Johan Zarco get tangled up with his bike. As Luca Marini then now sprinting back to try and hopefully start his 100th MotoGP race. It's Marini, you can see there with his damaged leathers. He's back inside the garage. He's going to get a new suit on there. Let's go down once again to Jack for a further update. Jack.
Yeah, no idea yet. It's going to be a minimum 5 minutes before pit lane will be open. New race distance, as I think you guys confirmed, 12 laps, and everybody that took part in the second restart is eligible for this 3rd start once again. The teams have all just been informed of that information.
Thanks very much, Jack. Middle of your picture there is Johan Zarco. He's just going to miss his braking marker here, isn't he?
He already has, hasn't he?
On the outside of Luca Marini he goes. Oh, it's Pecco Bagnaia's bike he gets tangled up in. Zarco's LCR Honda just sliding into the gravel trap. So having made the contact with the rear of Luca Marini's factory Honda, nothing that Pecco Bagnaia knew about that, of course, at all. But Pecco was actually unseated from his factory Ducati because Zarco, unfortunately, got tangled up between the rear seat and the rear tyre.
Nothing Bagnaia could do about that. And it's so easily done. We've talked about it all weekend. It's one of the longest runs down to one of the biggest stops at the start of a race. You get yourself, even from a standing start on the grid here, you're getting yourself well up towards 330, 340 kilometres an hour, well over 200 miles an hour. And then you're all braking, you're disengaging front ride height devices, you're in the draft, you're in the wake of riders up ahead of you, and it's so easy to have an incident like that when you just get hoovered up in the slipstream with someone else. And yeah, it looked, didn't it, from the aerial shot, Zarco had missed his braking marker. It was clear from about 100 metres earlier that Zarco wasn't getting that 100 stops, and it was just a case of who he ran into.
Yeah, he'd have done his best to try and take an evasive action, but Zarco into the back of Luca Marini, Honda on Honda, and then poor old Johan Zarco. I mean, a millimetre left, a millimetre right, all this but spots and maybes, but he would not have got himself into that position where he could get tangled up with Pecco Bagnaia's factory Ducati. So 2 red flags then here. All riders who started the 13-lap restart are eligible for the second restart. Of course, that does then include LCR Honda rider Johan Zarco, although we have to expect, given the fact that he's undergoing ongoing treatment in the gravel trap, Johan Zarco, unfortunately, will be missing from this restart in Catalan Grand Prix, along with Enea Bastianini and Alex Marquez. So 2 red flags we've had here this afternoon in Catalunya. The new race distance will be over 12 laps, which is exactly the same number of laps that we had in yesterday's sprint, yesterday afternoon. Monitoring the screens and hoping that everything's okay, or relatively okay, with their rider Johan Zarco as his LCR Honda crew. Pecco Bagnaia, we saw him get on a scooter pretty quickly to get himself back into pit lane. Let's get a word on the double MotoGP World Champion. Jack, down to you.
Yeah, he's just got back to the box, but he's gone into his office just to change out of the damaged leathers he was in with the crash he was just involved in. But the second bike is here ready to go. Davide Tardozzi just confirming that he will be taking part in the restart once it gets underway.
Yeah, thanks very much for that latest update, Jack. So Johan Zarco, as you can see from the helicopter shot, is being transferred into a trackside ambulance. Of course, as always, race officials here very quick to act with the red flag. There were medical staff marshals on the scene almost immediately once Johan Zarco had come to arrest in that turn 1 gravel trap. So all we can really say, with no confirmation when this restart will happen, is once again our thoughts, all of our best wishes go to both Alex Marquez and to Johan Zarco.
And as with earlier, with the first stoppage, we will get 5 minutes of notice for when this Grand Prix is going to get underway. Yeah, let's just hope we get the remaining 19. We're going to start, let's hope we get 19 fully fit Grand Prix riders back to the checkered flag in one piece, because this has been a dramatic afternoon. Of course, the first incident involving Pedro Acosta's broken down KTM, Alex Marquez, which then impacted 2 or 3 other riders behind him. The ice pack is now in the Ducati box for Pecco Bagnaia. I think it's his left arm that he was concerned with. We saw him favouring that in the Grand Trap. Yeah, he now puts the ice pack on there. As you said earlier on, Bagnaia's had his fair share of drama and red flags and trips to hospital before here at the circuit of Barcelona, Catalunya. He doesn't want another, and Luca Marini has now successfully changed leathers. And he's now got to try get himself mentally back in the zone for a restart.
There's plenty of ice packs put to use in pit lane. We saw Johan Zarco himself getting his left ankle iced before that restart. A restart which was red flagged, unfortunately, for an incident which did involve the 35-year-old Frenchman. You can see he's shortly going to be transferred back to the paddock, to the Circuit Medical Centre and to the state-of-the-art medical facilities here at the Circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. So Pecco Bagnaia and Luca Marini both quickly back to the paddock, and they are eligible for this restart. So at the third time of asking, Marini will at least get a chance to complete in his 100th MotoGP race. Well, it's been a very dramatic and eventful day. Johan Zarco has just been transferred to Medical Centre for further checks, as you can see on the screens. A very dramatic and eventful day for the factory KTM squad. Pedro Acosta involved in that nasty incident with Alex Marquez that brought out the first red flag. Let's get an update and some thoughts from the boss, Akiai, with Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. Obviously, still 12 laps to go here in a Grand Prix to be won. But have you got an idea what happened in that first incident? What happened to Pedro's bike, Aki?
We don't know exactly yet, but seems like there is some kind of electronic problem, which caused the stop of the bike. But actually, we don't have yet clear information for this.
We saw Brad come off the grid, Anea break down during the race, then a problem for Pedro. Is there a concern that there's something bigger happening here?
No, at the moment seems like things are not related to each other. So there was, let's say, quite normal clutch issue for Brad, that maybe he caused it already when he started the warm-up lap and overheating the clutch. And seems like Enea has some kind of, let's say, mechanical problem.
For Pedro, how difficult is it for him to refocus after an incident as big as that?
I think for all the riders now it's really difficult, of course, always after accident, and of course the third start already, so makes it really complicated, but it's part of our business.
Absolutely. Thanks, Aki.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks, Jack. Thanks to Akiayo. As he mentioned, unfortunately, clashes, injuries, technical problems, it's all part of the game, it's all part of the business in the MotoGP World Championship. The riders, more than anybody, they know the risks themselves, but you ask them, they would not want to earn a living any other way than racing the fastest motorcycles in the world. So this is latest information then. The pit lane will reopen. The pit lane will open at 15:12 at local time, so in just over 5 minutes time over the shortened distance now of 12 laps, mirroring yesterday's sprint yesterday afternoon. And once again, it will be the quick restart procedure, as you can see on the top of your screen. That information being relayed through from race direction.
Applause beneath us in the grandstand, because the ambulance that's transporting John Zarco to the medical centre is now making its way back up the main straight and up pit lane. The medical centre, as we look, is in fact directly outside our commentary box. It's just past the podium. The ambulance is now going past us, underneath us, into pit lane, and then directly to the medical centre. I can see Dr. Angel Chartra already making his way into the medical centre, where he'll await the arrival of Joan Zarco.
So 4.5 minutes away from the pit lane reopening. There is Pedro Acosta, who for the third time on this Sunday is going to be starting in this Catalan Grand Prix from a pole position. A good start in that restart to make sure he fended off the fast starting Jorge Martin. He's home 15:08 local time here in Barcelona. So 4 minutes away from the scheduled restart. Luca Marini getting ready for the restart. There is Joan Mir as well. Of course, he was involved himself, an innocent party in yesterday's sprint at the first corner, where a little bit of contact between Gian Antonio, minimal contact if any, sent Brad Binder down the road. And then unfortunately Brad Binder's fallen factory KTM skittled out Joan Mir. On one occasion, thankfully, we did not need any red flag intervention, but today quite clearly race direction, having no other alternative after the nasty incident involving Joan Zarco, with Italians Bagnaia and Marini also involved.
Tricky thing you have when you have a situation like this of a red flag and a short distance is, of course, increases the stakes of trying to get that good start. Let's head down to VR46. Of course, Fabio Di Gianantonio was injured in the first restart. He will be taking this third restart from fourth. Pablo Nietos with Jack.
Yeah, helmet on for Didier. He's obviously going to be taking part in this third restart, but clearly a bit of discomfort after that first incident. What did he tell you?
Yeah, he didn't see the bike, so you know, when this kind of things happen, it's very difficult to the riders to try to jump the problem, no? But anyway, more or less he's okay, and now it's a lot of adrenaline, so this is normal. But I think we can make a good race.
Where's the pain?
In the hand. He has a little bit.
A bruise?
Yes, a bruise. So this is normal when you have this kind of crash.
Thanks, Pablo.
Thank you.
Bruising then on the hand of Fabio Di Gianantonio. Lots of bumps and bruises for several riders that are going to make this 12-lap restart. I mean, we've got walking wounded, we've got Fabio Di Gianantonio, we've got Pecco Bagnaia, Luca Marini, Ralph Fernandez. Unfortunately, we're going to be missing Johan Zarco and Alex Marquez as we try for the third time of asking to complete this Grand Prix of Barcelona. Let's hope when we finally get back underway, it is a clean getaway and the battle that those fans have turned up to watch here today.
And a reminder that Nea Bastianini too is also out of this race. Second red flag doesn't change his situation. Wasn't eligible to take the second restart, therefore he's not eligible to take the third. Of course, if he'd had a red flag in the first 3 laps of the original start, it would have been a repeat of the first start, same grid positions. That's not what happened. We had a red flag at half distance in the original start. Because this second red flag was in the first 3 laps of the new race, that is why we then have the same grid positions of what we already saw. Acosta, Fernandez and Martin on the front of the grid. Of course, we will have an empty space in the middle of the second row. Gian Antonio will start 4th. Morbidelli will still start from his 6th place grid position. They won't all move up one. He will start from 6th place. There will just be an empty space in the middle of row 2.
So there is Pecco Bagnaia's battery Ducati being readied before this restart. Pedro Acosta from pole once again. Shark fans, they've been out in force here this weekend. Acosta has treated them to some show so far. Fastest on Friday, fastest in qualifying yesterday. Just pipped to a sprint win here by Alex Marquez in the tightest ever sprint finish we've ever seen since the start of 2023. So with the clock ticking down, we are 20 seconds away from yet another quick restart procedure here in Barcelona. Just a quick reminder, one mechanic is allocated a spot on the grid. They await their rider, they come to their allocated grid position, and once they're confident and happy that everything's okay, they will quickly clear the grid. We'll have a 1 lap, and then we'll be back underway for what is now a 12-lap Catalan Grand Prix, just as it was the distance in yesterday's sprint, of course.
Sun still out above us. There are a few ominous-looking clouds into the distance. Of course, we've gone way past the point now where the original Grand Prix should have finished, but it doesn't appear as if we're going to get any rain coming in, although I guess there'll be half an eye on that. There was a very, very small chance, about a 10% chance or so that we might get some rain at around about 3:30 in the afternoon, I recall seeing in the weather forecast earlier on today, which of course we didn't really think would come into play. We are now coming up to 3:15 in the afternoon, but it doesn't appear as if those clouds are about to drop any rain on us in the next 20 minutes or so. So hopefully we should get this Grand Prix in full dry conditions.
Yes, we've had enough drama to contend with for one day. Thank you very much. We don't need the elements intervening as well as remaining 19 riders come to the grid for this restart. These 19 riders, because unfortunately we are missing Johan Zarco and Alex Marquez through injury. Nea Bastianini unfortunately not involved. For Nea's case, he's perfectly A-OK physically wise, but a technical issue in the initial running of this Catalan Grand Prix means he's not eligible for this restart. Wasn't eligible for the first restart either, so a spectator, an unwanted spectator, is the beast here in Barcelona as we track Pedro Acosta then now through this final sector we go. Is the close competition once again going to emerge from Jorge Martin? And we know how good Martin is at firing that Aprilia off the line. It looked like he briefly got ahead of Acosta on that first restart on the run down to the first corner. Acosta then did get the whole shot before there was all the drama that unfolded behind the top 2 Spaniards. So coming to the middle of that front row of the grid goes Ralph Fernandez. If you're wondering why there's space there in P5, unfortunately that should have been occupied by Johan Zarco. As we know, he has been ruled out. He's undergoing treatment in the Circuit Medical Centre. That's why there's a gap there on that second row of the grid in between the 2 VR46 Ducatis of the Gian Antonio and Morbidelli. So let's hope this time around we are going to get a conclusion to this pretty eventful race day Sunday here in Barcelona.
Still 25 points to be fought for, still a Grand Prix victory to be claimed by somebody. Still a very tight World Championship situation with Marco Bezzecchi 2 points ahead of Jorge Martin. Martin, reminder, starts from the front row of the grid for this third part, I guess, of this Catalan Grand Prix. Marco Bezzecchi, he is back on the fourth row, which is where he was around about an hour and a quarter ago when the first part of this Catalan Grand Prix got underway. On board with Jorge Martin, who we never really got a chance to see it, but he of course had that brilliant initial start, and then he appeared to have some sort of issue himself on the way down to turn one, lost a bit of momentum and then dropped back into the pack ever so slightly. And so he has another opportunity now from the outside of the front row. And the likes of Mir, Aldeguer and Marini, who are on that third row, that empty space will enable them to, as they hope, just drive straight through that gap and potentially move themselves up the order. Of course, heightened tension, as we mentioned, with this third start, particularly what's happened already here this afternoon. So fingers crossed we get the 19 riders who are going to take this start to the checkered flag safely.
So through the final sector, the field go. Acosta then on pole position. Fernandez and Martin join him on what is now on board Spanish front row. It was, of course, with Alex Marquez there in the original restart. Yeah, a little bit of tension in the atmosphere ahead of this now third attempt to complete this Catalan Grand Prix. Just on my comms box window, I can see both Marini and Bagnaya's crash bikes returning to the paddock after they were involved in the incident with Zarco. Sports had a second red flag on this race day Sunday here in Barcelona. So for the third time of asking, over 12 laps, we're going to go racing again here in Catalunya. The Catalan Grand Prix take three. Lights out and racing in here in Montmeló. Another poor start by Fabio Di Gianantonio on the 49 VR 4060 cat. He's been passed already by Joan Mir. Acosta and Martin are going to go toe-to-toe and tough it out on the brakes into the first corner. Once again, it's a Acosta, though, that just drops across the head of the factory. A Pirelli rider, Rafa Fernandez there in third place. Joan Mir's had a good start once again. He's in fourth from the factory Honda.
Paco Bagnaia, credit to him, his left hand in pain. He's also made a very good start. He's straight up into fifth place. Also twice former winner here.
12-lap sprint format. This is a massive opportunity, isn't it, as far as Martin's concerned. He's all further contact there.
Bezzecchi, I think.
Was it Aldeguer? I think it was Aldeguer. Yeah, Aldeguer on the 54 bike that gives Bezzecchi a rather unfriendly tap going through turn 4. Maybe an unfriendly tap coming in. It is.
Taking him down.
Ralph Fernandez then on the inside. Well, these two rubbed fairings yesterday in the sprint at turn 5. And Ralph Fernandez will talk about an own goal as far as Aprilia are concerned. Ralph Fernandez on the inside of Jorge Martin. Martin squeezed him, which is perfectly entitled to do. So Jorge Martin, after a double win in Le Mans last weekend, now has a double DNF.
One Aprilia takes out another, and just you just ever get the feeling Pedro Acosta today might just be your day. Clattered by Alex Marquez, was able to take the restart. He's now leading this Grand Prix map from Joan Mir, Pecco Bagnaia and Fabio Quartararo.
Crash number 5 of the weekend for Jorge Martin. What a difference a week makes in MotoGP. A double victory, pure elation last weekend for Martin, and a fifth crash, and this one not of his own doing, after being collected by Ralph Fernandez down the hill into turn 5. A double DNF after the double win last time out. Acosta then it is that leads Joan Mir, the big benefactor of the Aprilia tangle there. Martin has rejoined, so maybe it's not a double DNF for him. Was that Brad Binder going a little bit hot there into the first corner further down the field? Martin, though, back upright. The incident between him and Fernandez is under investigation.
Yeah, Binder's dropped to 13th after sailing wide into that first corner. So Acosta leads from Mir. They're on the soft rear tyre. Information on our timing screens is that Bagnaia in third is on the medium as we nearly get another collision between a Trackhouse and Aprilia. This time it's Segura getting nerfed wide by Aldeguer. They're battling for 6th place, believe it or not.
Yeah, and that's allowed Bezzecchi to squeeze on through as well. Into turn 5 we go, where there was that controversial moment between the two bikes on the opposite side of the garage there. It's Bezzecchi versus Segura. On that one, it was Fernandez versus Martin. Simon Crayfar's going to be busy in the F1 MotoGP Stewards office. A little bit premature, I ought to say it's a double DNF for Jorge Martin, but this is a big, big talking point. A big controversial moment in this year's MotoGP World Championship, because has that once again denied Jorge Martin the chance to lead this year's championship? Or Massimo
Tense
Riva.
discussions there, weren't they?
Not
Massimo
half.
Riva and the outgoing Davide Brivio at the end of this season. Not really sure what Davide Brivio could say at this stage, because it was Raul who made the contact. Jorge Martin saw and puts his left shoulder down through turn 5. Unfortunately, his left shoulder was contacted by a Trackhouse Aprilia.
What was Massimo Riva's clear message about potential title fight between Marco Bezzecchi and Jorge Martin? Yeah, they can race each other hard, but it has to be done with respect. He will not be happy about that. It's a massive own goal from the Aprilias. Fabio Di Gianantonio, though, is the quickest rider on circuit at 1:39.736. And now we're in sort of sprint mode, aren't we? You don't have to worry about tyre conservation, tyre preservation here. It's just head down, full throttle, and go for it.
Yeah, so we've got Bagnaia on the medium rear tyre in third place. I guess his only soft rear tyre remaining was on the bike that got skittled down the first corner in the second start, so he's forced to go with the medium rear. We've also got Agura and Marini, of course, same boat as Bagnaia, also on the medium rear tyre, along with Jack Miller and Raul Fernandez, who, of course, is now down at the back of the field. Everyone else is still on a soft rear.
On the unlikeliest of situations, as Mir closed in on Acosta, Pecco Bagnaia somehow might be ending Ducati's long barren run. The factory team will have a podium in the last 10 Grand Prix, their worst run in over a decade. But in the third time running of this Catalan Grand Prix, he's there in third place, potentially on the box for the first time since he won the Japanese Grand Prix last September.
He might yet take a third Barcelona victory yet, Pecco Bagnaia, although he's getting a bit detached. It's Acosta and Mir who've got a few bike lengths ahead. Di Gianantonio might be the real danger here for Acosta in fourth place. Fastest rider, as you mentioned, on the last lap. 4 away at the front. Quartararo's nearly a second behind in fifth place, with Aldeguer for company.
And here was Acosta, Joan Mir in second place. Mir looking really lively on that factory Honda. Look how much time. Mir closes up through the fast right-handers of 13 and 14. Great corner speed that Mir had going through 13. Is he close enough to pick up some slipstream behind the fastest motorcycle here in Barcelona this weekend? Of course he is. 36 versus 37. Acosta just about resisting at the front of this battle. Acosta, the slowest of the top 4 on that previous lap, just drops back into the 140s. Mir, Bagnaia, Di Gianantonio quicker behind him. Last 2 laps of the sprint yesterday, Di Gianantonio was the quickest rider on track. Once again right now, he's the fastest rider in this shortened Grand Prix.
Of course, what would have been a mindset of looking after your tyres, I'm not so sure they'll be thinking about that in this shortened 12-lap distance. You just got to go for it and just hope for the best. 4 away at the front, as we've now got Agura and Bezzecchi closing in on that Aldeguer Quartararo battles for this year. So Bezzecchi in 8th place. And of course, with Martin still running but at the back of the field, all of a sudden it's swung round for Marco Bezzecchi to extend his World Championship lead.
Bezzecchi is not going to believe how he somehow is going to hang on to the World Championship lead at the end of this Catalan Grand Prix. He was losing the lead yesterday when Jorge Martin crashed out victory contention. No further action then taken with the incident by Martin and Fernandez. A racing incident, but an incident which is going to be a major talking point as far as Aprilia are concerned, as Di Gianantonio comes from a long way back on the inside of Pecco Bagnaia. Digit then up into P3, and now this could spell trouble as far as Acosta and Mir are concerned, because once Digit can get into his rhythm, well, we know how quick he was in the sprint yesterday. This is effectively another sprint here in Barcelona, and now having worked his way through on Bagnaia, we know he's got the pace to get ahead of the 2 Spaniards.
Remember, it's so easy to forget so much has happened. Of course, he was taken down in the first red flag when bits of Alex Marquez's bike were scattered in his direction. A 140.0 for both Mir and Di Gianantonio. Aldeguer is in the 39s now in 5th place. He might not be out of this either yet. Of course, we've got Acosta at the front. Never won a MotoGP race. Joan Mir's only won once. And that was, of course, all the way back in 2020 in Valencia. Fabio Di Gianantonio himself, of course, he's only taken 1 MotoGP victory, Qatar a few years ago.
Factory Honda team hasn't won since Marc Marquez won the Emilia-Romagna Grand Prix 5 years ago in 2021. It's all there for the taking, potentially, as far as Mir goes. Through turn 4 we go. Mir trying to find a way through on Acosta. Lap 5 of 12, halfway around this 5th lap, approaching half race distance. Agura comes from a long way back on the inside of Fabio Quartararo, and was slightly cleaner by Agura than what we saw from his teammate Fernandez on Martin in a controversial collision at the start of this Grand Prix.
He's up into 6th place now, is Ayagura. So KTM versus Honda versus Ducati versus Ducati. The top four, the four-rider group that is away at the front of the moment. Bagnaia not able to make much of an indent in the three up ahead of him. We've criticised on occasions this year, haven't we, Joan Mir for throwing the Honda at the scenery when in very good positions. I think we can all forgive him if he's winning top in it today.
Yeah. Honda are just going to go, you go all in, mate. You just absolutely go full send. Don't have any regrets. Just pull the pin and see what happens. Try and keep this pressure on Acosta. Yesterday, Acosta in the sprint said he was suffering with the edge grip on that KTM, and clearly you can see through turn 12, the long sweeping right-hander, then the last two rights, 13 and 14, Mia's got the better corner speed. He has got the better edge grip.
The problem he has got, though, is he doesn't have that ultimate straight line speed. Even in the slipstream, look, he couldn't really do much up with it behind Pedro Acosta. Don't get hoovered up into the slipstream there, Joan. Very nearly did. Managed to miss the rear tyre of Pedro Acosta. So what would normally be the best opportunity to make an overtake down to turn 1, I'm not so sure on that factory Honda it is for Mia.
We know how Acosta is an awesome attacker in MotoGP. We know he's a pretty good defender as well. We saw it so many times last year on a KTM that wasn't as competitive as some of the Ducatis he was going toe-to-toe with. Acosta will make that RC16 as wide as some of the motorways outside this Barcelona circuit to try and protect his slender advantage. Bezzecchi trying to put some pressure on Quartararo going through turn 5. Those two battling it out for 7th place.
Martin, reminder, is still running. You can see on the left-hand side of the screen, he's in 19th place. He's some 26 seconds off the race lead. So unless we have 4 dropouts, Martin will not score any points today.
Acosta at the moment is still resisting this pressure from Mir and the Gian Antonio. Bagnaia's been dropped. In fact, Bagnaia might be losing further places because Fermin Aldeguer has honed right in on his rear tyre. Like Digi was maybe a little bit wide on the entry into 10 as he tries to get on par with Mir and Acosta ahead of him.
Yeah, just a reminder, the problem Bagnaia has here is he doesn't have another soft rear tyre available. Of course, that one remaining soft rear was on the bike that was taken down at turn 1, so Bagnaia was having to do this on the medium rear.
Gian Antonio had come into the phase of the sprint yesterday over the same distance of this 12-lap Grand Prix where he really did come into his own. And Costa, nothing between him and Mir over the line, less than a 10th of a second splitting the Spaniards. We know how good the KTM is at stopping. We know how late in the brakes of Costa is. There's just nothing at the moment that Mir can do to get through. Bezzecchi's found a way through on Quartararo. That's important points for the World Championship.
7th is worth 9 World Championship points. So if you put the flag out now, he would extend his lead to 11 points. Although, of course, we have to consider that Pedro Acosta is currently on course for 25 World Championship points, which would slingshot him right into the action.
That's been coming. Aldeguer makes the move through on Bagnaia at turn 4. Bagnaia just has not got the grip underneath the with that medium rear tyre. Now then, they are starting to really gang up behind Acosta right now because the Gian Antonio has jumped all over the back of Joan Mir's number 36 factory Honda. The Gian Antonio was so fast. He was so good at the end of the sprint yesterday. He was lapping a lot faster than both Alex Marquez and Acosta over those last 2 or 3 laps. He's building towards another strong finale here once again.
Well, we've heard Pedro Acosta described as an animal before. He's going to have to be here for a moment. Mir was thinking about it into turn 10. Remember that incredible defence that Acosta put up in Indonesia last year when he pretty much backed up the whole race behind him. He would quite happily sign for another one of those right now.
With his first MotoGP success in his grasp, can you imagine being taken away by all people? Joan Mir on a factory Honda, a rider who's in excess of 50 DNFs in sprints and Grand Prix on that RC213V. Mir, though, is well and truly in the game. We believe he's going to go on a Ducati 850cc machine next year at Gresini. Occupying his mind right now is trying to find a way through on Pedro Acosta's KTM. The KTM we know is super rapid down the start-finish straight. You have to be bold to make a move on Acosta on the brakes into turn 1. Mir, at the moment, just can't find that way through as now Agura picks off Bagnaia.
Shout out to Agura too, because he's also on the medium rear tyre, just in a 39.936. He is the fastest rider on the racetrack at the moment. Acosta is just going to hug the inside of the racetrack, forcing Joan Mir to go the long way around. But is he going to go in too hot? Mir's going to sniff an opportunity now.
Well, they're almost tripping up over the back, aren't they, of Acosta right now? We saw Acosta suffer with pace sort of around the half-distance point of yesterday's sprint before. He had a real late flurry as well, so it's not a case of if Mir and Digia do get through on the number 37, it's going to be game over for Acosta. But boy, is he under some massive, massive pressure right now. Humongous pressure being thrown at him by both Mir and the Gian Antonio.
Is Aldeguer out of this? Not sure he is just yet. He's about 9/10 off the back of this trio that we're looking at. Gian Antonio, if he wants to make his move, he needs to make it soon. Here comes that move, up into second place, past Mir.
Yeah, and this is concerning if you're Acosta and KTM, because, as mentioned, the Gian Antonio was lightning quick at the end of yesterday's sprint, and now, having finally worked his way through on Mir, he has given himself plenty of time. He's given himself 4 laps and a couple of corners here that now to reel in and pass Acosta.
Well, he said how much would it hurt if Acosta loses a first victory to Joan Mir. I think the one thing that would hurt less is if he loses it to, of all people, the rider who passed at him and gave him the stare in Le Mans last week, Fabio Di Gian Antonio.
Imagine if Digia passes him and then out the last corner he gives him a good long look. Yeah, Digia trying to waste precious little time here and getting to the front. Once again, though, Acosta on the brakes into that first corner is just absolutely phenomenal. He is doing everything. He is absolutely wringing the neck of that KTM right now to try and keep himself ahead of Digia.
Aldeguer and Ayagura are in danger of joining this group, while Acosta's backing this up with Gian Antonio and Mir. They're doing 40.6s. Acosta leading the race. A 40.3 for Aldeguer. He's now within a second of the lead. And a 40.2 for Ayagura. He's also joining this.
Guess who's watching trackside? Valentino Rossi, Fabio Di Gian Antonio's team boss. 5 times he was a MotoGP winner here himself, was the doctor. This is just what the doctor ordered right now. A Digi on the 49 bike, steamrolls towards Acosta. VR46 Ducati have not had a win since Marco Bezzecchi in the Grand Prix of India back in 2023. Is their own barren run about to come to an end? Acosta, though, is still riding out of his skin. He is producing more brilliance, more heroics, isn't he, on that factory KTM.
You are going to drag him out of this race lead, kicking and screaming if you're able to do it, because surely no one wants this as much as Pedro Acosta. So many close calls, so many near misses. He is 3 1/4 laps away from a maiden MotoGP victory, but he's now got a queue of 4 riders: Gian Antonio, Mir, Aldeguer and Agura queuing up behind him.
I would have thought at the start of the initial running of this Grand Prix, Ayagura had any chance of being on the podium, starting 18th on the grid. Mir desperate to try and hang on to a rare Honda podium. Once again, the Gian Antonio picks up a bit of slipstream, just moves to Acosta's right, but nowhere near close enough to make a move on the brakes. Going to get close there between Quartararo and Marini. Further down the field, Marini in 9th in what is his 100th MotoGP start.
Bagai's now in the 41s. That's Bezzecchi catching him. Bezzecchi could yet get himself into the top 6 here.
Fabio Di Gian Antonio, he's right there. Bit of a snap there on the brakes for Mir's Honda as he grabbed a handful of that lever going into turn 4. We're in that tight inside line on the Ducati GP26. Goes Digia. Aldeguer and Agura are right there, aren't they? Now this is building up to be some finale. We're going to be having a grandstand finish here, surely, aren't we, in Barcelona? Somehow Costa's still in the front of the shortened Grand Prix, but Aldeguer and Agura now are coming to play.
And Gian Antonio's had long enough now, a couple laps to look at Costa ahead of him to work out where he's strong, where he's weak. He's already found out that it's very, very difficult to outbrake that number 37. As good as Gian Antonio is, can he get that Ducati stop? Is he just going to park it on the inside of Pedro Acosta and force him to give the lead up? Acosta's not going to give this up without an almighty fight.
On the cut back goes Acosta. The Gian Antonio's going to have the inside line, though, going through turn 12. Acosta will be hating this. He'll be despising this with every inch of his body, because this history, isn't there? Last weekend in the French Grand Prix, he did not like it when Fabio Di Gian Antonio passed him for 4th at the final corner, and had a good double stare looking back at Acosta. It ruffled the 37's feathers. Has Acosta got anything, though, now? Fabio Di Gian Antonio with Valentino watching on from trackside. Is Digia going to win the first Grand Prix for VR46 in 3 years?
Has Acosta got any answer? If he has, he's only got about a lap and 3/4 to find it. The main straight was the main opportunity, but Gian Antonio was so good through those final rights to close the lap. His lead is nearly already 4/10.
Acosta's got no corner speed. He said yesterday when he was racing Alex Marquez's Ducati GP26, Alex just had the far better edge grip. That's what allowed the Gian Antonio to be so strong through those final couple of corners to set up that pass. Brilliantly done. Acosta here, he might be clinging on for a podium, let alone the win. So Pedro Acosta, his heart is sinking right now as he sees that elusive first victory slipping away from him once again. Fabio Di Giannantonio is already through sector 2, almost 0.7 of a second clear of Acosta. This is Digi's now to lose.
Yeah, looks like it's done, unless he makes a mistake. And this is a rider, remember, who was showered by debris from Alex Marquez's broken Ducati, around an hour ago in the original start to this Grand Prix. There must be pain under the leathers and under the helmet of Fabio Di Giannantonio, but the perfect painkiller could be coming in a lap and a half of a second MotoGP win.
No pain, no gain. The Giannantonio, what a moment this is going to be potentially for the Italian. What a moment for him to win just his second ever race with the boss watching on. Valentino Rossi, a Hall of Famer, will be absolutely loving this. Can Mir relegate Acosta back to third place? Can Acosta hold on to the podium? Out of the final corner we go. 4.6 kilometres standing in between Fabio Di Giannantonio and a VR46 Ducati win here.
Well, Mir's been trying this all afternoon, ever since the restart. This time he is just going to launch it on the inside of Pedro Acosta, who didn't have the braking capacity that time. Mir up into second place, and a rare podium beckons for the 2020 World Champion.
Acosta's losing the podium here. Acosta's not going to be on the podium if he's not careful. He isn't. He's got no grip. He has got no edge grip whatsoever. A sitting duck, a passenger. Aldeguer dives on the inside of Acosta with the better edge grip through turn 4 we go now. So Aldeguer is through, and Pedro Acosta, having led for so much of this 12-lap Grand Prix, he might even take the checkered flag here in 5th. The Giannantonio has cleared off. He has checked out. What has Acosta got left? Can Agura make it back-to-back podiums? That's going to be the story to complete this Catalan Grand Prix.
What a story, though, for Fabio Di Giannantonio, a rider who it would appear is leaving VR46 at the end of next season. They are still trying very, very hard to keep hold of him for next season, and he's giving the perfect demonstration this afternoon of why they want to keep him.
Into turn 10, Fabio Di Giannantonio goes. His solitary MotoGP victory came under the night lights in Qatar back in 2023 when he was a Gresini Ducati rider, but this one is going to be super, super sweet. It looks like Juan Mir and Fermin Aldeguer are going to crush Acosta's hopes here. Acosta, having done so much of the front running, won't even be on the box here. This is going to be hard take for Acosta, but through the final corner we go. Fabio Di Giannantonio is your leader. Acosta goes down, but it is just what the doctor ordered. With Valentino watching trackside, his rider Fabio Di Giannantonio wins the shortened Catalan Grand Prix. Drama throughout this afternoon in the top class. Top rider, though, on the top step of the podium for just the second time in his career is 27-year-old Italian Fabio Di Giannantonio. VR46 Ducati are winners for the first time since India. Marco Bezzecchi back in 2023. And poor old Pedro Acosta. Contact there. It's been a pretty controversial Catalan Grand Prix eventually for Trackhouse Aprilia, with both Ralph Fernandez and now Agura both being investigated by the stewards. So Costa gets dumped on his backside through the final corner. Oh, we talked about him losing the podium, losing the win. Not even to see the checkered flag. It's Pedro Acosta. What a shortened Catalan Grand Prix that was. It's Fabio Di Giannantonio that is your race winner. The boss looking on from trackside. He'll be loving his Barcelona experience in 2026. Mir then does take second place. Fermin Aldeguer, a highly unlikely third place. Let's go down and get some thoughts, I'm sure, for an ecstatic VR46 Ducati boss. Ucho, salute you with Jack.
Yeah, as he gets a huge embrace from Pablo Nieto. There are tears in the eyes of Ucho Salucci. This one means quite a lot to the team. Ucho, very quickly, I can see the emotion on your face. Why does this mean so much?
It was unbelievable. I want to say thank you to this because today he have also, I'm sorry, I have also a lot of pain on the end. He decided to never start and they make one race like this. I want to say thank you to him, to our team, to our partner. Big emotion for me today.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
A big emotion, a big day, a big win for Fabio Di Giannantonio. This is why Ducati, and in particular VR46 management and Valentino Rossi himself, have been desperately trying to convince Digia to stay put next year in Ducati. It looks like he has been tempted away by the lure of a full factory KTM. Should be partnering Alex Marquez in the Austrian factory next year. He's at part of the circuit, of course, in the initial running of that Catalan Grand Prix, where he was clattered by all kinds of debris that were being detached from Alex Marquez's crashed Gresini Ducati.
Well, what a day. Yeah. Started with the restart. The third start started with this incident. For second place, Raul Fernandez and Jorge Martin. The stewards decided that no action was necessary at the end of this one. Both riders continued, but there will be some interesting and fraught discussions across the two Aprilia teams after that one.
Yeah, a very, very sort of sarcastic applause from Jorge Martin.
He's absolutely raging.
The thing is, it's another Aprilia rider. It's, you know, he's fighting for the World Championship, and with the greatest respect to Raul Fernandez, I mean, he's been declared he's been cleared of any wrongdoing by the F1 MotoGP stewards, but when you're riding for the same factory, you've got to, Aguirre's got a 3-second penalty. He was busted with a long lap for the contact with Acosta. Of course, he had no time to serve it, so he gets a 3-second penalty. Look at those scenes. Wonderful scenes, magnificent scenes, as Valentino Rossi congratulates his race winner, Fabio Di Gianantonio.
Igor down to 9th place. So Marco Bezzecchi, that one helped Jorge Martin's mood either, because that promotes Marco Bezzecchi now up, after all the drama, to 5th place.
That was very un-Aguirre-like, wasn't it? Normally, when Aguirre was making overtakes in MotoGP, they are clean as a whistle. Contact, though, with Pedro Acosta. But he's a very polite young chap, isn't he, Aguirre, as he goes down to apologise to Pedro Acosta's crew. Let's hope that Acosta is okay. He took some big barrel rolls through the gravel trap. At the end of what has been a very eventful, a very dramatic race day, look at all the scuff marks on Fabio Di Gianantonio's leathers after he was on the floor in the aftermath of the Marquez-Acosta contact in race 1. There is Aguirre coming down to apologise. That penalty that's come the way of Aguirre then drops him from 4th down to 9th, the 3-second penalty. That puts Brad Binder up into 8th. But wonderful scenes, emotional scenes for Fabio Di Gianantonio, because that was not easy. That was a tough 12 laps for all of those riders. Joan Mir then on the podium. Are these premature celebrations? Because as you can see on the graphic, Joan Mir's name with Razgatlioglu, Fernandez, Rins and Miller, Bagnaia, they're all under investigation. Bezzecchi could be on the podium. Could be on the podium.
Of course, that will all get sorted out in the next hour or so. I hope the race direction and the stewards haven't booked flights back home this evening, because they're going to have to be cancelled. So we've got, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 riders who are under high pressure investigations. Don't worry about Fernandez, because he was down in 16th. Toprak might lose a point, he was in 15th. But the key story there, which I think is just being relayed to Joan Mir, is that he and Pecco Bagnaia, who were 2nd and 4th in this Grand Prix, are under investigation for their tyre pressures. What else can happen this afternoon?
What a day. What a day we have had here in Barcelona. Of course, amidst all the celebrations, all the smiles and the congratulations, we once again send our thoughts to Alex Marquez and Joan Zarco, riders caught up in nasty accidents that brought out 2 red flags here today in Catalunya. Both of them were reported conscious at the scene. We know Alex was transferred to a nearby hospital. But Fabio Di Gianantonio, he rode those 12 laps on pure adrenaline, didn't he, after he got clattered by some of Alex Marquez's debris. And there he is. He's got the battle scars to show what a tough afternoon it was for the Italian. What a day. What a day for VR46 as well. And on a circuit where Valentino did so much of his winning in all classes. He was a winner here in 125s, winner here in 250s, did a whole bunch of winning here in MotoGP as well. So a race-winning rider here in MotoGP in the past, Valentino Rossi, and now he is a race-winning team owner here at the circuit de Barcelona, Catalunya. Didn't need a 2009 special on Jorge Lorenzo at the final corner like Rossi did all those years ago.
I reckon Valentino will go up onto the podium to accept the winning constructor prize, because he's been up there 199 times. Maybe he can claim this as the 200.
What was his last Assen? Was it all the way back in 19, was it? The old
Jerez
memories.
2020.
Yeah, Jerez 2020, of course it was, yeah. That was his last win, I believe, wasn't it, all those years ago. So this story has not reached a conclusion. We haven't got the final chapter written at the moment. Just a reminder, there are riders under a time pressure investigation, including Joan Mir, Fermin Aldeguer, and it could be third up to second. What a ride by Aldeguer. He's a jack.
I mean, what a performance, what a story it's been since the start of the year. You broke your leg in January, now 4 or 5 months later, you're back onto a MotoGP podium. Just talk us through the journey you've been on this year.
Yeah, super difficult start of the season for me and for all my people, but we are back here in the podium for sure. In not an easy weekend because start in the 15th position for yellow flags, for my crash, and all of this was difficult, but we are here. This race is for all my people, also for my teammate. I hope he's okay, and just I'm super happy.
Well said. Great to see you back.
Thank you.
Yeah, he's had some tough times, some dark days for Aldeguer. Of course, it was right at the start of January where he fractured a femur. He came from, well, he was 15th on the grid in the initial running. He started the restart in 8th. This was the key move. Acosta just had nothing. Acosta had no edge grip whatsoever. Sitting duck through the fast corners. Nevertheless, that's a ballsy move there from Fermin Aldeguer to fire it on the inside of Acosta going through that turn 3. Poor old Pedro Acosta, what is going through the mind of the KTM rider right now? Fastest on Friday, pole position. He loses the closest sprint in history. He was the leader for so much of the initial running of that Catalan Grand Prix. He did so much of the front running in our second restart, and it's not even a podium, not even a finish for Acosta to celebrate. For the time being, though, at least, it is a podium and a second place for Joan Mir in front of his home crowd. Let's get his thoughts with Jack.
Well, Joan, you are under investigation, but for the moment, this is second place after a magnificent ride. How much does this mean to get the Honda onto the podium and to do it here on home soil?
Yeah, it feels amazing, you know. We've been dreaming for this and working very hard during all the first part of the season, but many crashes, but hopefully today we could put everything together. I enjoyed a lot the racing, despite, you know, 2 red flags, 3 starts. It wasn't an easy one. They should give more points for this. But you know, hopefully the Johan and Tonsualets, wishing them the best, and yeah, hopefully to see them in Mugello.
Great job today. Thank you.
Yeah, great to see some of the thoughts of both Fermin Aldeguer and Joan Mir immediately with Alex Marquez and Johan Zarco. This was Mir's move then on the brakes into turn 1. That's not an easy move to make because we know how good Pedro Acosta was braking that first corner. But he had no momentum through 13 and 14 to propel him down that long start finish straight. And ultimately, as the grip faded, Mir swept on through his first podium of the campaign, his first into Malaysian Grand Prix in Sepang last year with VR46. Well, they are thrilled to bits, aren't they, here in Barcelona? A real tough day for Fabio Di Gianantonio. Didn't even get the opportunity to change leathers, did he? Look at all the scuff marks on his leathers after, I think he actually might have made contact with one of Alex Marquez's tyres that was flying through the air after that scary incident on the run down to turn 10. He kisses the number 49. He might be kissing farewell to Ducati and VR46 at the end of 2026. But in the present, living in the moment and enjoying the moment. There's his crew chief, Matteo Flamini. Matteo did so much winning. That's Frankie Morbidelli's crew chief, I should say. Matteo Flamini did so much winning as part of Valentino Rossi's backroom crew for so many years. But here he is then for just the second time in his MotoGP career. Fabio Di Gianantonio getting the congratulations. There's Big Mig, Andrea Migno, very much part of the VR46 stable still. But Fabio Di Gianantonio, your race winner here in Catalunya, he's with Jack.
Fabio, after being involved in that scary incident, you showed extraordinary courage, grit, determination to go out there and win the Catalan Grand Prix. Just talk us through how you managed to refocus and go out and win that.
I'm so happy, but first of all, I was really worried about all the riders crashed. Today has not been an easy day for everybody, I guess. I really hope that Alex is fine. We've been really lucky. We know that our sport is amazing. We try to give an amazing show, but also we are humans. We are in danger, so I really hope that everybody's safe. Joan, I saw Pecco a little injured also, and also Alex. But yeah, I'm really happy by myself and the team. They did an amazing job. We were looking for it since a long time, so we must be proud and happy.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Ciao a tutti.
Yeah, great words there by Fabio Di Gianantonio. His first thoughts after that memorable afternoon, which started in this dramatic fashion, chaotic scene. I think it was the front wheel, wasn't it? Looked like the forks were mounted there to Alex Marquez's stricken Ducati. He got a big whack, obviously, on the left lower arm, didn't he, Fabio Di Gianantonio? But he was eligible for the restart. He was fit enough for the restart. We said, didn't we, in commentary, at the end of that 12-lap sprint yesterday, the fattest rider on circuit was Digia, and he proved it once again here today. It's a phenomenal victory. That was his race-winning overtake, threw on a Costa on the brakes in the turn 10, and from that moment onwards, he never looked back. And this is the sweet taste of success. Fabio Di Gianantonio, a race winner for two different Ducati teams now in the MotoGP World Championship. Look at the boss. He is absolutely ecstatic. V is for Valentino. V is for victory for VR46 here in Barcelona.
Of course, our thoughts are still with those, as Fabio Di Gianantonio's was, on those injured. Just, I'm sure you're keen for information. We can give you a latest update from LCR on Joan Zarco. This was tweeted a few minutes ago. Joan Zarco is going to the General University Hospital of Catalonia for further examination to his left leg. Of course, the last update we had from Grassini on Alex Marquez is that he is conscious and off to hospital for further examinations.
And there is confirmation, and that information has just been released by the LCR Honda team. And all we can really say is our thoughts and speedy recovery to both Joan Zarco and to Alex Marquez. World champions, top talents, top riders, and as Fabio Di Gianantonio was quite right to point out there, yeah, we are professional racers, we earn our living at over 200 miles an hour, but ultimately, as well, we are humans, and we feel emotion. They didn't want to see scenes like they were involving Alex Marquez and Joan Zarco, but as they always do, when the visor comes down, race mode is on, they are the best in the business.
Bravo Digia.
Grazie per
Come
me.
stai?
Sto meglio.
Ma che ti hai fatto male qui o qualcosa?
Più o meno. No, sta bene.
Brutta, quella caduta.
Spaventosa, cazzo. Io ho preso la ruota davanti, credo, con la forcella.
Sì, l'ho visto.
Oggi è stata una giornata... Oggi...
Sì.
Anche se facevo ultimo andava bene.
Yeah.
Se stiamo tutti bene, spero... Non so cosa ha fatto Alex, ma se stiamo
Penso
tutti
sta
bene...
bene. Qualcosina...
Mamma mia.
Mira.
Anche...
Io se li ho fatta allora.
Oh, guidavi da paura però,
Bene, dai.
Tio, guidi... Fai paura, cazzo.
Quello...
Bravo.
Grazie Dio, si prende il rischio.
No, però...
Te anche. La verità
ma...
è che pulito...
ma tu invece entri che è un controllo incredibile, sei proprio bravo. Bravo Giovanni, complimenti.
Grazie Dio.
Oh,
Sí.
la puta.
Raúl ha entrado fuerte.
Hola.
Sí.
Joder. Por suerte, che non l'ha pillado.
Sì.
Wow.
Qui la prima curva si arriva velocissimo, troppo.
Dovremmo
È
partire
un
più vicini.
rischio, sì, è un rischio, sempre succede qualcosa.
Ma tutti
sempre.
gli anni, tutte le gare,
Tutti gli anni. Qui si deve partire molto più davanti, sai?
Sì.
Arrivare in quarta,
Sì,
non bisogna arrivare
che
a
già,
300.
Che già quarta
Sì.
è forte già.
Però non bisogna arrivare a 300,
Sì,
sai?
è vero.
Come t'ha dato,
Yo
perché con l'aereo
veía
è difficile.
Fermín Bastero y tal, y digo, ay, vámonos.
Cosa ha fatto Pedro alla fine?
Lo que íbamos de goma cocidos todos.
Sí, yo aquí me metió por dentro todo un trecho. Mira. Sí que...
¡Oh!
Sí que se la ha
non lo sapevo
llevado,
questo.
loco.
Sí, me ha llevado.
La Virgen.
Puttana, questo non l'avevo visto. Vale.
Il capo. Bene. Corta,
Sì.
Meglio.
Sì, grande.
Muy bien, señores. Muy bien.
So the top three have started to process what has been a pretty dramatic day here in Barcelona. Fabio Di Gianantonio, as it stands right now as well, Tranmere will stand on the podium. For how much longer his second place will stand, this reminder, he with Toprak Razgatlioglu, Ralph Fernandez, Alex Rins, Jack Miller and Pekka Bagnaia, all under investigation for a possible tyre pressure infringement. Let's look at the glass half full. The top three come to the podium.
Yeah, please don't ask us to try and work out what the new result will be. We'll let that get sorted out if indeed there are any changes later on. It's Pablo Nieto who will accept the prize on behalf of VR46 today. And Fermin Aldeguer, well, what are we talking? 4.5 months ago, he broke his femur. Now he would have expected to be on the podium in race 6 of the season. Whatever the circumstances, that's a heck of a result for Fermin Aldeguer. As it stands, it is second place for the 2020 World Champion. And there's no question, is there, that when he does stay upright, Tranmere is a serious contender on that factory Honda. If he is allowed to keep it, that would be his third podium in, the last 10 Grand Prix. But for Fabio Di Gianantonio, we fancied him after the way he ended the sprint yesterday, and we ended up getting a second sprint of sorts. This time, it was Digia who emerged triumphant. An hour after he was taken to the floor by a wheel and front forks that had been ripped out of Alex Marquez's Gresini Ducati. Congratulations to VR46. The Dr. Stardust has been sprinkled on this Grand Prix for them. Fermin Aldeguer, well, we know he's on the podium, wherever it is, either third or second. That is a fourth MotoGP podium for him. Just 21 years of age. Might well potentially be in the colours of VR46 next time he comes here. Tranmere, 16th as it stands MotoGP podium, and his third in Honda colours. As I said, they've all come in the last 10 Grand Prix, going back to Memuncaki last year. Opportunity presented by the drama up ahead. Certainly went and grabbed it. But today is Digia's day. A Catalan Grand Prix overshadowed by dramatic incidents which have left Alex Marquez and Joan Zarco injured, and our thoughts are with them. But our congratulations for the second time in MotoGP, well, they go to Fabio Di Gianantonio.
Happy Fabio Di Gianantonio, and as you saw there on your screens, we have a very happy Valentino Rossi as well. Digia then with some rather muted
Oke, guys, dengan juaranya Di Gianantonio ya, akhirnya dari tahun 2023 baru bisa naik podium lagi di posisi pertama di 2026. Oke, dengan berakhirnya dan sudah angkat piala juga, gua Jorge pamit dulu. Kalau gua ada salah kata mohon maaf guys ya. Dan jangan lupa tetap dukung MotoGP selalu guys. Thank you, bye bye dan selamat malam, selamat beristirahat. Thank you.